Get on the ark! Everyone on the ark now!
I think we should get on the ark.
I agree. I think we should get on the ark also.
I'm cold, I'm wet, I'm going home. Ladies first, move!
Oh my God, this is happening. This is really happening.
Oh.
Get everyone on the ark now! Get on the ark now! Let's go! Get on the ark! Let's go! 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 Get on the ark! Let's go!
We're gonna need a bigger boat. Stay here with the kids.
And all the days of Methuselah were 960 and 9 years, and he died. And Lamech lived 180 and 2 years, and begat a son. And he called his name Noah, saying,
This same shall comfort us concerning our work and toil of our hands, because of the ground which the Lord hath cursed.
And Lamech lived after he begat Noah 590 and 5 years, and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Lamech were 770 and 7 years, and he died. And Noah was 500 years old. And Noah begat Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Chapter.
In decoding the numbers contained in Noah, I've used as inspiration the very elegant work of David Flynn collection, discussing Newtonian physics in the context of the Bible. He wrote this book called The Temple at the Center of Time, which, if you read it, is unbelievably genius. So I encourage everybody to go to David Flynn's collection and read this book. You will be inspired and amazed. In David Flynn's book, here's a quote that I find is very enlightening. He states that the revolution of science that Newton single-handedly achieved in the Principia was primarily that the laws of motion and gravity and the nature of space and time had not manifested apart from his belief in the immutable truths of the Bible. From its pages, Newton found the path towards discovery in the natural universe. By his own words, the Bible was his source of inspiration for every theory that he conceived.
Noah and his family descended from Seth, Adam's third son. The mystics focused on the two Enochs that lived before the great deluge of Noah. The first, the son of Cain, had transferred the sacred knowledge from Eden into the first civilization that was later destroyed due to its corruption and evil. The second Enoch, from the line of Seth, preserved the pure knowledge apart from this corruption. This body of knowledge has been incorporated in ancient scriptures geometrically. Its decipherment needed a key, though, to exist in a universal language that was lost. And it is this lost knowledge that all the secret societies have been pursuing since the time of Noah. And David Flynn, in his seminal work, Temple at the Center of Time, explores this lost knowledge as it was encoded into the Bible. And he explores how Newton knew that this lost knowledge, or the key to God's universal knowledge, was encoded into the Bible. And so he investigated the Bible in this regard to know and to rediscover the lost knowledge that fell with the first and second civilizations before Noah.
And more of David Flynn. The importance of the ancient Hebrew religion as the original form of God's communication to humanity was central to Newton's search for clarity of the universal laws. So then the first religion was the most rational of all others, till the nations corrupted it. For there is no way without revelation to come to knowledge of a deity, but through a frame of nature. That's a very nice quote. Let's go down and see if there's anything more. So what David Flynn is basically saying is the same as what I referred to in a previous video, that to the ancients, science was their religion. Religion and science were once one. It's only through the corruption that religion and science became decoupled. If you've been following my videos, I posted my first video approximately 6 weeks ago, and I got the best response on that particular video that I did very quickly one morning before I went to work. Anyway, as you recall, I had a puzzle that I had posed to several people, and it was concerning the element 93, Neptunian, and the genealogy of Adam to Jesus Christ. And as you recall, Neptunian is an element with 93 protons, 93 electrons, and 7 valence electrons. So the number 93 and the number 7 were very important numbers as far as the makeup of element 93 on its atomic level. Anyway, I analogized that to the Bible and the genealogy of Adam to Christ. And as you can see, Adam begins with 1. He's the first generation. And as we go down, we can hit the 9th generation, which is Lamech. And then we've got Noah, which is the 10th. And you go on down. And then you end with Terah. And you start again with Abraham at 21. And that's 3 sevens. 7, 7, 7 is 21. And then after that, you'll start to see how it again goes down to 14, which is David, the dividing line. And then it divides. And as you can see that the female line, which is the mitochondrial line, continues, but the male line always begins again at 14. So at David, we divide it. Solomon goes all the way down. And the women's line continues at 35 with Nathan. And then you can go all the way down until you hit Mary, which is the 76th generation from Adam. And Joseph, which is the 13th generation from Adam. And what you have at the time of Jesus is the 14th generation on the male side and the 77th generation on the female side. So you have 7, 7, 7, 7. So 14 is very important on the male line, and 77 is very important on the female line. And Christ, or Jesus, is the Son of God and the last Adam. And that was very significant, and people seemed to be interested in it. So I posed another question. The other question I posed was, how do these numbers relate to the Bible in other stories? And I'm going to explore that with you today. And as you recall, Karen Armstrong, one of my favorite theologians, said that while she was in Catholic school, that they were taught to read the Bible and understand the Bible in 4 different levels: the mystical, the end times level. I still can't say that quite well enough to repeat it, so we're just going to call that the end time level, or the rapture, the allegorical level, and the plain meaning. So Noah, is a story of catastrophe happening to the earth, where there was a great flood. And the flood myth is found in almost every religion. So according to Randall Carlson, who's a mythologist and a sacred geometrist, he believes that this catastrophic myth is, in reality, something we should pay attention to, because it appears that the earth has gone through several catastrophes, and man had to begin again, pick himself up all over again, and begin again. And so Noah, I'm going to describe how to decode the numbers of Noah, and I'm going to do it very quickly. You're going to have to go back to the Bible and see where these numbers are all included in Genesis 5 and 6. So anyway, we have Noah, and the 9th generation of his father is Lamech, I call him Lamech, and he lived 777. Again, we've got 777 there, 77 years. And why is 77 important? Well, that happens to be the Jubilee year, or 7 times 7 equals 49 in the Hebrew, in the Western numbering system. But in the Hebrew Jubilee, you count 0 as 1, and that is 50 years. And every 50 years is the Hebrew Jubilee. So 7 times 70, is a very important number, and 7 times 70 equals 490 in the Western system, but in the Jewish system, it is 500 years. And as you recall, that
Noah lived 500 years before he begat his sons, and that will be discussed later. But let's the calendar system. We're going to go down and do 7 times 350 is 24,500 years, which is 15% smaller than Noah's sacred year, or the sacred geometric year, which was mentioned by Randall Carlson, mentioned by Velikovsky. The sacred year considered by the ancients was 360 years. But 350 to 360 is a 10% difference. So Noah, his father lived 555 years and begat Noah, but Noah lived 500 years and begat 4 sons. This number marks the Jewish Jubilee, again, of forgiveness and resurrection, calculated as follows. 7 times 70 is 500 years. This is the Jubilee year. But let's look at Noah's Ark. So according to David Flynn, which I introduced you earlier to, and his seminal work, which is Solomon's Temple, or Temple at the Center of Time, David Flynn discussed how all the numbers within the Bible seem to correlate with physical principles and the geometry of the earth. And Newton, in his study of the Bible, used it as a roadmap to develop or rediscover the sacred knowledge found within the Bible. So here's Noah's Ark's dimensions: circumscribe heaven and earth. The sacred cubit, as Newton discovered, and this was also found by Velikovsky, is 25:20. So that's the dimension of the cubit, and that is the dimension used by Noah forward in developing temples and developing their metric systems, etc. But we're going to find out how 25:20 also relates to the heavens and the earth, and Noah and the calendar and the axial precession. And if you recall in my previous inquiry into Noah, is I asked the puzzle as how does the axial precession, or the precession of the equinox, relate to Noah? Well, the sacred year is 360 times 7, which is 25,200 years. Okay, that is a fractal of 25:20, which is the sacred cubit. Now, the water of the earth met the water of the heavens for 40 days and 40 nights. Well, that means the water reached 15 cubits, and then it subsided. And why are 7s or 14s important in the Bible? Well, 7 is used to calculate the axial precessions of the equinoxes and used in making calendar adjustments by the ancients and by navigators. So as you recall, Randall Carlson, Velikovsky stated that the ancients decided or believed that 360 days was the sacred year, or that perfect 360-degree circle. And that's according to Newton, Velikovsky, and Randall Carlson. But also it's reflected in David Flynn's book, his Temple at the Center of Time. So the great year, which is the present axial precession, is 365 days per year. Well, if you want to multiply 365 days per year times 7, you're going to reach the number 25,950 years, which is the present great year, or the precession of the equinoxes. Earlier videos pinned it at 26,000. They use that as a round-up number, so 26,000 is 25,950, rounded up, 26,000. Well, David Flynn also noticed, and I thought this was interesting, that 1 nautical mile equals 1.15 statute miles, or 15% greater nautical mile than a statute mile. And why is that? Well, if you want to look at water, H2O, water's dimension is 15% greater than a solid. So you're going to find that H2O, or nautical miles, are 15% greater, and the sailors have to take that into account, rather than if you're a general marching on the land, it is 15% shorter. So the axial precession at 25.9, well, let's do, and it's 15% greater than the sacred year. Let's do the sacred year, which is 360 days times 7 equals 25,200 years. And that reflects the cubit, sacred cubit of 25:20, and is 15% smaller than the year after it, or the year of the great year, which is this year, based on a 365-day calendar. So what that implies is that as the processions proceed in the heavens as well as the earth, every 26,000 years gets bigger by 15%. This can be deduced from these numbers. Water, H2O, is 15% greater than land or solid. The calendar gets bigger. It was 360 days before Noah, and then after Noah, 365 days, which is 15% greater than the year before Noah. So then we've got the 10 generations after Adam. Adam lived 930 years. Well, there's another 15% greater difference. Noah lived 950 years, which is 15% longer or greater than Adam lived, representing a 15% proportion that is greater. So water has a dimension of 15%, and then, which is the nautical mile. Water is 15% greater than a solid or earth. So let's go down here and reflect these numbers in how Noah's flood reflects chemistry. Okay, let's begin with Noah's flood and how it reflects the water, or H2O. Now Noah commanded by the Lord to bring himself and his wife and his 3 sons. So total male female humans equals 8. And of the beast as follows: 4 women, 4 men equals 8 again, but 7 clean male beasts plus 1 unclean equals 8. 7 clean female beasts plus 1 unclean equals 8, or 8, 8, 8. And this represents an important number. And what this represents is the production of oxygen out of the H2O. So as you recall in Noah, Genesis, the wind or oxygen dried the earth, separating from the waters of the earth and the waters of the heaven, H2O. And what separated the waters of the heaven and the waters of the earth? Oxygen, or 8, 8, 8, because oxygen has 8 protons, 8 neutrons, and 8 electrons. And that's the chemistry of oxygen. And I will show you in Wikipedia where that is concluded. Here we've got Wikipedia, and this is oxygen. And the elemental category is a nonmetal. It has 8 electrons, or 2 on the first shelf and 4 on the second. So a total of 8 electrons. Its atomic number is 8, which means 8 protons and 8 neutrons. And here's the elemental chart. Oxygen, as you can see, is number 8, or it's 15.9999, which is almost 16. Okay, also David Flynn. This is David Flynn's work here. I'm the one that came up with the numbering system in oxygen, but David Flynn's book is very interesting. It points out the entire geometry of the earth that Newton deduced from the sacred cubit, and he used the sacred cubit and the dimensions of Solomon's temple to understand the width dimension of the earth, or as many say, that Noah was a great geometer. So Noah's Ark's dimension circumscribes heaven and earth. As we pointed out, Newton determined that the sacred cubit used by Solomon in building Solomon's temple was 2520, which is a fractal of 2520 years, which we showed is a 12th of the 360-degree circle, or the 12 houses of Israel in the heavens. And so then, as a fractal of the sacred earth, here we have 2520 times pi, or 314159260, equals 7,916,813 statute miles, which is now been determined by NASA. The 7,916,813 statute miles is the diameter of the Earth. Lived 888 years. I'm going to have to go back and recall that 888, but I did tell you it was an important number. So how does Noah's Ark, the flood, relate to physics? And why are 7s or 14s important in the Bible? Well, nature is created and dies with the number 14. And I'm going to show that to you now, because 14, or a fractal of 14, is a very important number as far as the birth and death of life and matter. Now, I really can't pronounce this man's name, but it's called I'm just going to call him Chandrasekhar constant. And the Chandrasekhar constant is 1.44 solar masses. 14, 1.4. Okay, and what is the Chandrasekhar constant? Well, it is the number of the electron degeneracy under pressure. It halts the gravitational collapse of a star, and it represents that it can only 1 to 39 solar masses. So then at 40 days and 40 nights, if it exceeds that, it dies under pressure, and the white dwarf collapses. But if you keep it under this 1.39 solar pressures, the white dwarf, the pressure will prevent the white dwarf from collapsing. A star exceeding this limit without significant thermally generated pressure will continue to collapse to form either a neutron star or a black hole, because the degeneracy pressure provided by the electrons is weaker than the inward pull of gravity. 1.44, Noah's great year, the flood, the renewal, the resurrection, the jubilee. It's a fractal of 14, or 1.44 solar masses. It's also a very important constant in electricity. And let me tell you, they have really hidden these numbers, because I did remember 1.44 electron volts, but I couldn't remember whose constant it was. I kept on thinking it's the mass of the photon. I knew it related to the photon, but I'm going to show you later on how they've hidden this number. But anyway, Coulomb's constant equals 1.44 electron volts, and that's Kelvin times E, or the electron squared, is 1.44 electron volts. And that represents the Coulomb's constant is the force, the flux of electricity, or the momentum of the photon when an electron emits a photon under maximum angular momentum. So that is the force of electricity, and that is why 14 or 7s are very important numbers in the Bible. So let's take a look. I just put this together quickly this morning. The evolution of the Earth extrapolated from Noah's Ark. And I'm just using numbers. I'm decoding them just like Newton did. I'm just adding a little bit to it. You need to go read David Flynn's Temple at the Center of Time. You will be blown away. But I'm adding my additional understanding of these numbers, because I'm adding the physics component and I'm adding the chemistry component to it. So let us return to the genealogy from Adam to Christ. And again, Adam to Christ, we remember the male line proceeds in 14, and the female mitochondrial line continues in 7s until 777 is reached. So we've got the female line with mitochondrial DNA until we reach 77 on Mary's side, or 14 on the male side, which, as you recall, is Neptunian with 93 electrons, 93 protons, and 7 valence electrons. So we have the number 93, 14, and 777. And then it begins again with the resurrection, the evolution of life, and the love of Christ.